to the first historic California March for Life. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here with you today. Welcome.
Yeah.
And so Jonathan just mentioned the March for Life in Washington, D.C. Can I see by show of hands how many of you have made the trek out? Okay, I see a bunch of you, but I can see some of you have not been there. So very similar to this crowd, it's a very positive group of people, and particularly young people with all sorts of creative signs. I've seen so many beautiful, beautiful creative signs here today. And I'd like to personally invite every single one of you to join us January 21st, 2022, when we'll be marching for the 49th Annual March for Life. In some ways, it's hard to believe that the March for Life has gone on as long as it has. 49 years. I mean, it's hard to believe that we've lost 62 million Americans to abortion. And we know that whenever one life is taken, at least another is wounded. And it's hard to believe that abortion is still where it is in our country, and yet we've made so many inroads. That's a whole other talk. That's not what I was planning on speaking about today, but I think it's important to mention as we're beginning and executing these wonderful state marches, like in Sacramento, how powerful it is when the grassroots community comes together and stands up for truth. And in Washington, D.C., while we never anticipated that the March for Life would go on 49, 50 years, we never anticipated that would become literally the largest annual human rights march worldwide. That's what it is. And by being here today, you are part of that. So thank you. Thank you for standing up for the human rights abuse of today, standing against that. The March for Life and our movement is made up of Americans from every racial and ethnic background, every walk of life, and every faith tradition. We're mothers, we're fathers, we're sons, we're daughters, we're Democrats, we're Republicans, and we're independents. But despite all of these differences, we are united by one common understanding that every life, from the moment of conception, deserves protection. Why do we still march after so many years? Because 48 and a half years ago, on January 22nd, 1973, our country was forever changed in the saddest of ways, in the most tragic ways, when 7 men on the United States Supreme Court handed down the Roe v. Wade decision, forever changing American history by expanding abortion to all 50 states. And since that time, as I mentioned, we've lost over 60 million Americans, 62 million Americans to this. And in response to this injustice, we've continued to march every year in Washington, D.C. And that's why we march, because no sacrifice is too great for this human rights abuse, so that we can end this human rights abuse of abortion. And that's why you here today are so urgently needed in every state, but hey, let's be honest, maybe in California even more, right? Do you agree with me that abortion is the human rights abuse of today? Do you agree that the crisis of abortion has gone on 48 and a half years too long? Let me hear you say yes. Today, will you march for the poorest of the poor, the most vulnerable, those who can't speak for themselves, babies in their mother's womb? Let me hear you say yes. Will you continue to march, even in a difficult environment in California, until abortion becomes unthinkable? Will you march so that one day soon we won't have to march anymore?
That's right.
One of the best ways that you can witness, and especially young people, is to witness on social media today. Show the pictures of the beautiful families, the young people, the people of different faith traditions, different backgrounds. Show the wonderful stories. Tell why you march. Hashtag why we march. Tell your story, because your personal story may change someone else's story. It has such a power to it. And I've heard some of the stories already, just talking with some of you and reading some of the signs, and they are powerful. Don't ever be afraid to share your story. Each of us in our enthusiasm and our excitement for life cannot end with the March for Life today. We have to keep marching every day, whether it's in January in Washington, D.C., or whether it's here in California when it's 100 degrees, next week. We need to keep marching every single day by taking action. So I'm going to ask you to do something really specific to make that tangible. We just heard from that wonderful representative some of the bad bills that are in the Senate right now, and I'm going to talk to you about one in particular. So let me ask you a question. Do you have your iPhone, your mobile phone, your Android with you? If you do, we're going to do a little audience participation activity here. So pull it out and hold it up high. I want to see it. Pull it. Okay. All right. Most of you have it up, but not all of you. All right. Yep. Now I'm seeing them all. Okay. Hold it high. Now, this is critically important. I want you to text CA, so California March, all one word, CAMARCH,